Online audience, thank you very much for joining us again for the last session. For everybody in the room also, I have acquired a rather smart mobile phone. It's much smarter than mine. So I'm just wondering whether anybody wants and is worried that they have left their mobile phone where we had lunch. There's something written in French, but just to say if you're panicking that you've lost your mobile phone, it's here, okay? Otherwise, it goes back with me to Switzerland. So, our last panel discussion, and indeed we've heard all through the day what ACE has been doing to encourage architects to internationalize, what is being done at a European level, and now we're at a national level. So on stage with me is Philip STEDEN again. He's got a different hat. This time, he's not in the Internationalisation, a new business model working group, but he is in the Netzwerk Architekturexport, which is the German network for architecture exchange, the NACS, as it's known, and it supports some 200 people from more than 60 architectural practices. And it helps them find new markets abroad, mediates contacts between domestic and foreign colleagues, builders and investors, and basically promotes the brand Architecture Made in Germany. Now, we have online, and we won't be able to see both of them at the same time, unfortunately, technically, so we'll have to be very clear in the way that we switch from one to the other. We have Philip's counterpart, I would say, in France, Madeleine HOUBART. No, that's not Madeleine, that's Pablo. So I told you this was going to be tricky. Shall we try for Madeleine HOUBART, who is, there we are. That looks more like Madeleine. Let me tell you that she's the Secretary General of the French Architects for Export, which is AFEX, and it's a non-profit association. I hope you can hear me, everybody. It's got more than 200 members, obviously committed to exporting their service. And it's got 120 architectural firms, and that includes firms of architects, engineers, planners, landscapers, interior architects, and all of the professions who are involved in the field of construction. So thank you, Madeleine. We will now switch camera, and we will find Pablo. There we are. Pablo CONDE DÍEZ del CORRAL, General Director of Business Internationalisation at ICEX Spain Trade and Investment. ICEX is a national Spanish public business entity affiliated to the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Business, and their mission to promote the internationalisation of Spanish companies and foreign investment. So we're going to find out a little bit, first of all, about the two networks, and then we'll go to Pablo as a representative of a promotion export agency. So could I ask us for this to see Madeleine on the screen? Because if we go back to Madeleine, I know that you set up AFEX some time ago. Just briefly tell us, why were you set up, and what was the percentage when you set up of French architects exporting their services, and what's that percentage now?
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm very sorry not to be with you physically, but I hope you will enjoy what I'm going to tell you about. So AFEX was born about 55 years ago, at a moment when France was not so well, as the economy was not fantastic for the architectural firms, and they decided that they wanted to check whether they were good or not at exporting their services. At that time, architecture was under the administration of the Ministry of Public Works, let's say, which is now Ecological Transition. And they made a group, kind of workshop with all the ministries concerned with the exportation of architecture, and also the architects and the representative of the Order of Architects and and a few other institutions, but also architects, as I said, and they saw that the French architects, although they are well known all over the world, just realized 2% of their revenue in exportation, which was very little because the market itself was small. So 2% of a small market was really very small. And they decided altogether, meaning the architect, but also the administrations that were in charge of them, which was a Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Public Works, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also Ministry of Economy and Finances. They all together with the Ordre des Architectes, decided to create AFEX to improve this 2% figure.
And has it improved? What is it today?
Well, it has indeed, because we made a study 2 years ago because we really wanted to find out whether we had improved, and we have, because today the last figure we have is 4.2%, which is not bad, but I think we still can improve a lot.
There is potential. Thank you there, Madeleine. So, Philip, NACS, the German equivalent, when were you set up? What was the percentage of architects exporting their services then? And what is it now?
How do I switch it on?
It should come on automatically, I'm told. Just start talking.
Now it works. Thank
Yes.
you. Okay. Yeah, Network for Architecture Exchange, as we call ourselves in English. In German, it's called Export Network. So you see it's both inbound and outbound connections. Yeah, it was founded in 2002, so it's a bit older than 20 years. And now the answer is easy, because we had AFEX as a role model, and it was really admired in Germany, and we thought we need something similar to help architects export. But there was also another story, because it was not our invention. It was 3 architectural offices who said we need to have a platform for exchange, because there's lots of information in the market. We have seen many portals also from the EU on the national basis, but sometimes you need a peer-to-peer advice. And so we had the feeling we need something like a platform for architects to exchange about the market abroad. But also in these times, in the early 2000s, the economy was really weak in Germany, lots of unemployed architects, and growing markets abroad. So we saw we regarded it as necessary to promote the export and the international work. And when it comes to success, back then I've looked up the numbers, and I was surprised too, because 2002 it was 2% of the revenues coming from abroad. It went up to 3% in 2010. And the latest numbers, it's again back to 2%.
Does that mean the German economy is doing well, and that's why?
Well, I have a hard time to find out what the reason is, but maybe it's also because the domestic demand was pretty strong within the last 10 years, so maybe there was no need to work abroad. But when you look at absolute numbers, from 2010 till today, the export volume grew by roughly 50%, from I think 300 million euros to 400 or 500, depending on how you count. So there's a mixed picture.
It's a mixed picture. Madeleine, in a moment we'll get on to what you're doing to boost those numbers, but what would you say from your perspective was the biggest challenge? To a certain extent you've doubled from 2 to 4.2%, but what is the challenge as you see it that makes French architects perhaps reluctant to export their services?
Well, it is not they are reluctant, but they were not trained, in my opinion, for exporting their services, and we had a lot of experiences, but not strategy. The thing is, they sometimes went abroad because they met someone, and it happened, but there was no strategy. And what we really try to do is to help them on 2 fields. The first one is exactly the same as what Philip was saying, that is to say, exchanging good practices on what happens in the interesting countries where we are needed, where we have a chance of success. So we help them sharing experiences in work groups and all this. And the second thing is the access to information, to the valid information in time. And I'm sure Pablo will understand what I say, because one key of success is certainly to have the information on the markets early enough in time to be able to make teams, because in France, as in many other countries, architectural firms are not very big, so they need to go with others, you know, to share experiences, but also references to be able to be competitive on the foreign market. So two challenges, the exchange of experience, and the second one is, but certainly the most important, the access to the right information at the right time.
Understood. Philip, does that resonate with you as the challenge, as you said, it went 2%, 3%, back to 2%? Is it lack of information, a lack of training, in fact, Madeleine also said?
I agree on what Madeleine said, but there are additional aspects.
We can hear you, Philip.
Please switch the mic on. Now, yeah. So I totally agree on what Madeleine says, but there are additional aspects. One, of course, is that architectural offices are usually small or medium-sized. So these are no large companies, except for maybe GMP with 500 employees, what we heard this morning. That's an exception. But usually you have small firms that have difficulties going abroad. But when you ask what is difficult, I think it's also a question of policymakers who very much oversee architecture. When we look into Germany, we also have a national export promotion agency. They look very much on automotive, on chemicals, on machinery, but not as much on services, and especially not on architecture. So there is really a need to do something for architects, because I have the feeling sometimes the profession is overseen.
Let's bring in Pablo then, because you're promoting exports from Spain and goods, but also services. First of all, perhaps you can just tell us the architects in Spain, what's the percentage of them that do export their services? Do you know? And do they have the same sort of challenges that we're hearing from Madeleine and Philip?
We don't have the numbers. That's a pity, because as any sector without services, you don't have really the numbers. In goods, it's pretty easy. I can tell you the percentage, but in services, you can't. And I think the challenges are pretty much the same as any creative industry also, because I think one of the main challenges Philip was talking about is the size of the companies. In Spain, we have less than 2 workers per firm. And you cannot be both creative and a company and be going abroad, presenting yourself, and at the same time doing the work in order to be able to be creative. So I think that's one of the main challenges, because as we are the trade promotion agency, we face not only the architecture sector, but many sectors that have the same challenge: how to be a company and be at the same time a creative.
Absolutely.
When we're not big enough. And I think that for us as an institution is the main challenge. How can you help those companies go abroad and be big enough in order to be able to be studying the offers they have to be presenting themselves and have the information? It's easy, but normally they don't have the size to be investing 400,000 euros in order to be able to present a good offer for a big project of infrastructure abroad. So that's one of the big challenges we face as an institution. I think
Yes.
that's common to every country, not only to Spain.
Absolutely, because of their size, as you have said. So what support are you offering Spanish architects?
We do support in a lot of ways. For example, right now we are in Salone del Mobile with several Spanish firms that do furniture, but also we bring the architects also here. And they were present we had 4 architectural firms present in some talks that we organize here. And we do that all over the world. And we do some talks normally based on the industry and on the habitat industry, and also on the tiles. And we bring the architects so they can present some projects. And sometimes that gives out the opportunity for those architectural firms to get access to new projects in those countries. We also do a lot of sensibilization and education of the architectural firms who have a program where they help them organize a development project abroad. So they have the study to do that, and we have some grants also to be able to implant that program to go abroad. So we do have several projects, and they can always use our network of 100 offices abroad to try to find the information or the opportunities they're looking for, or the right partners in any country.
Pablo, your assistants, or perhaps it was you indeed, sent through a photograph. It was called the House of Mirrors, this photograph. Perhaps we can see it and you can just take us through why this was important and as a support to those Spanish. There we are.
That's not the House of Mirrors, no?
The House of Mirrors.
That's the House of Mirrors? Okay, the House of Mirrors is an exhibition we are doing with Interni in Salon and Beauvais right now, which we use an architectural firm from Spain to do the exhibition and to do it. And we have 16 tile companies also at the same time exhibiting there in the Statale of Milan. And we did the presentation with Interni, and the firm was able to present the project to the press and to the biggest stakeholders here in Milan, as a very good opportunity for this small firm to be able to present what the concept of the exhibition and other works they are doing abroad or in Spain.
Thank you. So getting media interest is obviously important, as we see there. Madeleine, let's come back to you. I know that AFEX, you do a lot of prizes, a Grand Prix, and I think that there is a photograph too of one of the ways that you support French architects with the Grand Prix. We've got the picture up on the screen, Madeleine. Can you talk to us a little bit about this initiative?
Yes, just to let you know, AFEX has a double role. The first one is to help French architects to get better organized, to be more successful abroad, being small or being big. And this we do with the help of our government and of a structure that is similar to Pablo's, which is Business France. And we go with the teams of architects. Last time we went to Saudi Arabia with a team of 30 architects. And I can tell you it's meaningful to go with a group of architects, and not only architects, but also the other professionals that are involved in projects. So this is the first role we have. I told you, information, sharing experiences. The second role is to promote French architecture in France and overseas, because ahead of the big stars that are well known internationally, like Jean Nouvel or even Christian Porzampart. I know that you had Elisabeth de Porzampart this morning, but Christian has been Grand Prix in 2014. So every 2 years, at the moment of the Biennale de Venise, Venice Biennale, we award Grand Prix AFEX de l'architecture française dans le monde, which values, of course, one Grand Prix, but mostly 10 projects, 10 French projects built overseas by French architects last 2 years. And this, what you see, was the last exhibition of our Grand Prix, which is in Palais Royal. This exhibition is settled here and goes to Mr. Everybody, the wide public going through the Palais Royal, which is not so often, because most of the time architecture is a matter of specialists talking to specialists. Here we are really in the Palais Royal, in the heart of Paris, and everybody can see these wonderful buildings and also these wonderful human adventures that are meant with the building overseas. So that's what we do every 2 years. Awarded in Venice, exhibited in Paris, and after that we propose this to the cultural services of our French embassies, and it goes all over the world. in the embassies that want it, we give them the exhibition and they print it the way they can, as long as it is correct with the shapes we give them. So that's what we do with Grand Prix AFEX every 2 years.
Thank you. Yes, and indeed, you mentioned Christian Pont-Saint-Parc, and in fact, there's a new building in Geneva where I live, the Dior building, which I haven't seen, which apparently is absolutely amazing. So, an example definitely of a successful architect exporting their services. Philip, you obviously also work on promotion, exporting services. And I know that you've sent us a picture of a big exhibition in Germany. Tell us here why it's important.
Well, what you see here is, it's not in Germany, it's on the
It's in
MIPIM
France,
trade show
in Cannes.
in March in France, in Cannes.
Okay.
But it's called the German Pavilion, and it's the purpose is to do some marketing and networking, and also to show business opportunities. So it's a German Pavilion. We take around 30 architectural offices with us that can take their models and can network there. Also, our federal minister for housing was there. It's the one in the red jacket. We had it's a little conference, was opened by our vice president, Ralf Niebergall, who's sitting right here. So it was a comprehensive trade show, several days. And we get some support from our government. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to afford this, because it's not inexpensive. Let's keep it like this.
And how difficult is it to, when there's a big trade delegation going to somewhere like China, to get an architect on that delegation?
Well, when it's organized by ourselves, it's of course easy. But to bring an architect into a trade mission of our chancellor is not that easy. Right now, our chancellor was in China, and GMP Architects was joining them because they've done a lot of work in China. But it's again, sometimes architects are overseen. So we talk to our ministries and tell them, take some architects with you, because they have nice pictures, then they can present very well. So it makes sense to take them with them. But usually our politicians take CEOs of Daimler-Benz, of Siemens, of large companies, you name it. So for us, it's a challenge to position architects on those trade shows. But when we do our own delegation, it's of course easy. And I just heard from Madeleine that AFEX was in Saudi Arabia. So again, AFEX is a role model, because our trip to Saudi Arabia is just in November this year.
Okay, right, good. Well, there's be some lessons learned, most probably, for both of you. Pablo, what advice would you have then for AFEX and NACS? They're doing a lot. They're doing their best. They're running their own prizes, delegations. They're trying to get they're trying to get architects on ministerial delegations. Pablo, is there anything that they're missing? What could they be doing?
No, I would like to congratulate them for their efforts, because it's not easy. And I think those good practices are very important for the rest of the studies to understand that they have to have an investment plan in order to go abroad. That is not cheap. Exporting your services is really expensive. That you have to become a company and have a business plan in order to go abroad, as any other company. I think that's important, that they are not architects, they are a company. As any other company, they should have that business plan in order to be able to upfront a lot of money, because internationalizing yourself is very expensive. And they should take into account the help our institution as ICEX or business funds can give you in getting access to that information, getting access to the right people in those countries, because we do that for every company, not only for architects. I think that's important. Yes. Sorry.
But Pablo, I was going to say, I was wondering, where do you see the opportunities? We are hearing a lot. We heard a lot this morning about China, GMP, also 2P Associates, Elizabeth and Christian's company have been in China. Is China still the go-to market, or is with the decline in the Chinese economy, which is a relative decline compared to the rest of the world, is China no longer the place? And do you see other markets for Spanish architects, for example?
I think right now Saudi Arabia, everyone is talking about it because of their big projects they do have. So I think it's always interesting, but they are also looking for very big firms. They are not looking for SMEs normally and for small studies. They will be looking from our experience, Madeleine is nodding no, but what we are seeing and what we are getting from the authorities that they are looking, at least for some of the projects, for big firms, but there is opportunities always in going consortium. And I think you have opportunities pretty much. It depends on what you do have and what your projects look like, because culturally they will be more efficient or have better odds in some countries than in others. Not everything works, or the access you have to the country is the same. It depends on what the kind of architecture you're able to and the kind of projects you do, because the sensibilities change between countries.
Yeah, absolutely. Madeleine, Saudi Arabia you see as an opportunity. What about the other big markets? India, Indonesia, Nigeria. Where do you see the big markets and opportunities for French architects to export their services?
Well, this is a very difficult question, of course. I think lately we've been to Saudi Arabia 3 times, Philip. It was our 3rd time when we were 30 people coming around. We are creating a real link, a relationship on the long run, and they are very interested in exchanges and also in training. Training is the key word, because they want their population to be stronger and to be able to do themselves the things, and that's a good point. So we are trying to collaborate with them and to have interns from the countries we want to export. We want interns here in France, in French companies, so that people get accustomed to our methods, the way we are thinking, the way we are doing architecture. It is like kind of a diplomatic attitude on the long run, which is something we are aiming at. As for the markets, it's a very difficult question. We've been looking at Africa for a long time now, because of course it was there are many countries with whom we've had long-term relationships in the past. So we've gone many times in Ivory Coast, but the market is very difficult, to be honest, and we still have a few interns coming from this country to ours, but it's a little bit difficult. Well, there are some projects and some of our architects are working there, but I cannot tell you this is what we are looking as a priority now. Next time, every year we try to find 2 countries. We try to make 2 collective missions abroad, lying on with the business friends. And this year we are not going back to Saudi Arabia. We're going to Korea. We're going to Seoul, because we think it's a very challenging market, because it's a mature market where we can go and compete. It won't be the same as what it used to be in China, which is no more the case now, because China is no longer what it used to be, which was 10 years ago. It was the first destinations for French architectures abroad. But we've looked into Southeast Asia, mostly Vietnam, where we've had a number of projects. And we know by experience that except for very famous architects, North and South America are very difficult. I tried to see the whole world, Can you please take the, is that NACS at MIPIM picture
It
on
would
the
be
screen
best
all
if
the
they took
time?
that off, as you're not
Yeah,
NACS and
yes, it
AFEX,
would
wouldn't
be,
it? So
yeah,
could we please have that full screen?
yeah, because it's not relevant. Although I
Would
could
you
tell
mind
you that,
taking off the presentation, please, technicians? And could we
let me
just have
tell you that,
Madeleine full screen?
no, let me tell you also that in MIPIM is a trade show that is very important for us, and we are the neighbors. We are really in front. The French pavilion is just in front of the Germans, and we are very happy about it. We've been trying for many years to do things together with NACS. We are very close. Our objectives are very close, and we share a number of ideas, among which the importance of being in MIPIM every year.
Indeed, very close. Indeed, Philip, you said that you're following in the footsteps to Saudi Arabia. I assume you'll be following in the footsteps to Korea. But the same question, any particular market opportunities that you see?
Well, I don't have Korea on my map right now, but maybe it's a good hint from Madeleine. Thank you for this. I mean, definitely it has shifted somehow. So China and of course Russia as well are not on the focus anymore. The Middle East has gotten more interesting. Besides Saudi Arabia, it's also Egypt might be a market for architects, but also for acquiring talent. There are some German Arab universities that are educating to German standards, so that's easy to employ them. But we also we do a survey every year and asking our members, what markets are you looking at? What is interesting for you? And they told us still USA, India, Canada, and then there are some niche markets. In our network, we have a little office, surprisingly, just a few employees, but building bridges in Vietnam. So that was something of a surprise for me. And also we think about going to Kigali in Rwanda, because there's, for city planners, it's interesting. There's a thing called Green City Kigali. So there are also interesting developments. So you need to find interesting countries that are growing, where construction is going on, that need the help of architects, and at the same time find the opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let me ask, I'm going to go to the audience and see whether they've got any questions for Pablo, Madeleine and Philip. Philip, do you have any questions for Madeleine that you want to share publicly? Because of course you know each other very well, or Pablo?
I would have a question to Madeleine, and my question is language for you?
Could we take that slide away, please? Thank you. The question from Philip to Madeleine.
Does French language play a role when you select markets? Because obviously when you're speaking like English or French, these are global languages, might make it easier for you to work abroad. So is that a reason to have a special emphasis on African countries?
No, of course it is easier. Of course it is easier, but more than the language thing, it's the law that is very much inspired, and the methods that are very much inspired by French ones, more than language. We are now accustomed to English as a global language, as you said, and it is not a problem for our architects. Thanks God, because when I started a long time ago, it was not so easy. But new generation, fortunately, do speak English. That has won the war of Esperanto. Today, English is Esperanto, and we don't select the countries for language reason, more for political reason, maybe sometimes. You were talking about Rwanda. Be careful; it's a political. It can be politically complicated, Rwanda. So no, French is not a question. More zones of influence of our history, and I must tell you that. That is the reason why once, as I said during the preparation of this meeting, we imagined that we could make a network of European architects going overseas. I mean, ahead of the borders of Europe, because we all have zones of influence that we could use and share. Of course, it's easier maybe for France to go to Africa because There are, as I told you just now, not only the language, but also the laws and the ways and the practices. But unfortunately, we did not succeed with that network. I hope one day we shall, and maybe this meeting will be the beginning of something with
Well, we
Pablo
can already see
and
the
Philip.
collaboration between AFEX and NACS. Pablo, let me just bring you into the conversation to ask you, do you have any question for Madeleine or Philip, who of course are the architecture experts, or any last point you would like to make before I take audience questions?
No, only to congratulate them again, and we are always open to have recommendation by the industry in order to do better our work, because we are here to help the companies.
Absolutely. Well, this small European network is beginning to form in front of our eyes. Let me ask Lucas whether there are any questions or comments from our online audience.
Yes, if there are. So from Christina to Pablo, she asks, do you think a major problem is what you referred to succinctly as the difficulty of being a creative industry and having to perform as economical agent? Do you have any clues on how to manage this gap? Can it be related to a difficulty of society understanding of a societal understanding of what is architecture, which is its value?
No, I think it's easier than that. Is normally what I've seen is a lot of those studies that are doing performing well abroad is that they have a CEO or a person that is not an architect behind them or likes to be that is business oriented more than project oriented, and I think that's what I have seen during my experience, and I think that's something important to be able to mix talent and creative talent with business oriented talent in order to be able to see the opportunities, to be able to have that business plan in order to be easier for you as an architectural study to go abroad.
Yeah, thank you. Philip?
Yeah, I would like to add something. I mean, although I'm an economist, I would say when architects work internationally, there's more to it than just economic numbers, because it's architecture and Baukultur somehow thrive from international discourse. So it's beyond just economic numbers, and maybe sometimes that's what policymakers don't see.
Thank you very much. Lucas, is there another question online?
Please, I would like to add something.
Sure, Madeleine, let's switch screens to Madeleine.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would just like to add that it's not a matter of no figures or numbers, but more a matter of influence. Architecture is a very strong means of influence, because when you have built something very strong in a country, I can tell you that your country is present. And well, that's what I wanted to say.
No, absolutely. Well, the soft power of architecture, absolutely. Lucas, is there one more question? And then I'll go to the in-person audience.
Just for information, I think. So totally comprehensive, she says. So the question could be that the problem can subsist mainly in the SMEs. And then thank you.
Okay, yes. Well, I think that was the point that you made, that when you get to the big companies like GMP.
Yeah, when you look at the share of revenues coming from different countries, the smaller the architecture firm is, the lower the ratio, and big firms have a higher ratio. So I think the ACE sector study also gives numbers to it. When I memorize it right, 6 or 8% of architects are somehow active abroad, and when you look at larger companies, more than 10 or even more than 50 employees, then the ratio is much higher.
Yeah, obviously.
So it's obviously small firms have a lot of difficulty.
Yes. Is there anybody in the room who would like to ask a question? Lucas, you want to ask a question, or is that
No,
somebody online? Because I just want to go into the room.
after the room, I'll
Yes, I'll come back to you. Room. Room. There. Is there somebody you're taking the microphone to that I haven't seen? No? I'm looking here. Are you seeing anybody, Philip? I don't see anybody. Okay, I'm going to have to go back to Lucas then. No choice.
This is from someone, not from me, from someone online. From Favilis. To Pablo again. Just a general question about. I think this is just a clarifying question about ICEX. Does ICEX help thousands of Spanish young architects working abroad to become enterprises?
No, that's not our goal, and we don't have thousands of architectural firms. Also, that would be lovely, but what we do is help those companies that really have in their goal to go abroad do that journey, and that's what we do, and we help them in that journey because, as I was saying before, it's quite expensive, and not everyone, and depends how the domestic market is doing and behaving. They are not so interested in be taking planes every time because it also has a cost, a personal cost to internationalize yourself. So we help all those companies that want, and also we do the best practices so the people realize that they cannot rely only on the domestic market because any crisis could be a very bad, it could be a really big problem for you as a company.
One final question then to each of our speakers. Pablo, what do you think could be done? One thing at national, European level, perhaps even regional level, to get more architects to export their services. Is there a silver bullet here, nationally, regionally, European level?
I don't have the magical recipe for that. That's a pity. But I think that these kind of meetings and this kind of exchange of good practices is very important. And I think those companies that have succeeded in going abroad and telling how they did it and telling what they did, how they did, realize how they have to get abroad, which for example, the Germans go to MIPIM. If MIPIM is a good way to go and do business, or those missions we organize, because every trade organization organizes missions, if they do work or not. But also, I think that companies should be ready whenever they're really going, in our case, abroad and crossing the Pyrenees mountains, if they have the money in order to invest and the capacities to invest in that internationalization process.
Thank you, Pablo. Madeleine, one thing at national level or European level that would encourage architects to export their services more?
Well, there are many ideas I could give you, but I shall give you a very specific and small one, but I think it's meaningful. I think export should not be considered only at the international level. Export is an excellent training for architects because every time we organize those missions, every time we organize these missions internationally, when they come back, they are richer of something. So I think maybe if they could, if those missions we do with business friends and those Spanish architects do with Pablo, if they could be considered as a training and reimbursed in that on that basis, it would be a kind of an encouragement.
Thank you. Last word to you, Philip.
You know, I had more time to think about the question and must give a good answer now. One initiative that I find really interesting is an EU-funded project called ArchE that is about architectural design competitions, because we were wondering why so few architects take part in transnational design competitions, and so we want to make it easier and did some analysis, and will set up a portal where you can get information about foreign design competitions that makes it easier to participate, because we would like to have more architects from European countries take part in German competitions and vice versa. So that this might be a small piece in enhancing architects to work internationally.
Thank you very much for that very practical suggestion. And so thank you, Philip from NACS, Madeleine from AFEX, and Pablo from ICEX for joining us this afternoon. for our final discussion about internationalization of the profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Philip. So we're coming to the end of the day, and we have a Slido question for you. And if you remember that it's hashtag 1234, takeaways from the conference. Yes, everything is possible. That was Tobias this morning, and people have repeated that throughout the day. But please, those are 4 that are in there, but if you could add to those thoughts by going on to slido.com hashtag 1234 and putting some words in or short sentences, that would be great to see this word cloud take shape. So if everybody, I know we've been joined by some Austrian students too. You've only got the last session to go by, but it would be good to have everybody's thoughts about what came out of this. Indeed, collaboration, working stronger together, I think was something that somebody said earlier, and the learning from each other. Indeed, as we heard also from Joy, from the Swedes who learn from the Kenyans and the Kenyans who learn from the Swedes. And we've got, yes, getting the information, and that's very important. Courage. Yeah, design by dialogue, I think, was Tobias's phrase this morning, which is what GMP does on their big projects when they work internationally. So, and we've got many, many EU tools that you heard about. They'll be delighted to know that you find them useful. So, as we saw, somebody said courage. So I think that's great that we populated that slide with the amazing overall circularity. Let's go then to the next and final Slido question, which is, if we go to the next Slido question. Which is, we wanted to know, didn't we, whether you changed your mind and now how you saw, were you ready to export? So this is a word cloud, it's not a yes, no, and we've got some people, we got, right, so one person has said yes. It depends how big this survey is going to be. I also encourage the people online to fill it in. Nope, not ready for that. Yes, indeed. That's a very, very honest opinion. You've heard that there's quite a lot to it, but it's not just about the bottom line. It's all about the learning experience too and what you get out of it. Indeed. I feel old. Well, perhaps I could have written that one, but that wasn't me. There we are. It is, we hope, become easier now, easier than when AFEX and NACS first set up. I think the Have a Belgian beer is most probably a key message of this meeting, especially now that you've got your bus ticket to get there, so there's no excuse. So maybe tomorrow so there's still potential there, I think, is what people want to say there. Let me ask then Ruth SCHAGEMANN, President of the Architects Council of Europe, to say what her highlights were. Perhaps she would also like to share her takeaways. So, Ruth, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Let's say maybe I'm a bit an old generation. My Slido looks like this. And it really covers already quite a lot what we saw on the responses from the first Slido. to make it very brief, because I think everyone is looking forward to the beer and to the beer experience, so I will not keep you so long from this. I think what became very clear throughout the day today was about the how and the what. How to do it. We got so many interesting insights. For me, it was like a basket full of inspirational tools to be used, and obviously they are not easy because it's also about legislation, it's about regulation, it's about trade agreements, and but I think today this was a huge opportunity to get this overview. What do we have? The overview of the initiatives already on national level, like NACS, AFEX, providing information and support for architects who want to go cross-border and overseas to be engaged in delivering wonderful architecture and urban planning. So I think there was a lot of how. And we also discussed, and let's say the full complex for me was extremely inspiring, because we were also speaking about the what. And the what, for me at the beginning of this conference, was unclear. Are we sharing the same values? And yes, we share the same values. And then the question comes, why are we sharing the same values? I believe that we share the same values because what we as architects are doing is, and I think this is in the best sense of a approach to the people, we are providing, I hope, something good additional for the people. And people are the same around the world. We have needs. We have need of safety. We want to live with our families, raise our families. And this means that the values have to be the same. The needs might be very different out around our different countries in this amazing world which we are living. But the values are the same. And this really encourages me and also gives a bit of hope that we will achieve step by step, and the steps have to be quicker, for a common living environment, not only in Europe, but international, worldwide, and globally. So I'm really looking forward to any further discussion in the nice Boers, also a nice piece of architecture. And thank you for everyone who participated today. And I think we as architects have an important role to play, and we can inspire other people and take people with us, with our ideas, by listening what the needs are and what is needed on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruth. So the conference was organised by the Architects Council of Europe, but it was co-funded by the EU's Creative Europe programme. And so for the final word before the beer, let me now ask Tamas SZUCS, from the EU Commission, from the DG EAC, Principal Adviser for the International Dimension of Policies and Programmes, to say a few words.
Thank you very much for the invitation, also for this kind introduction. I can certainly promise you that my speech will be much shorter than my title, so no need to worry. And another promise which I can make is that, related to this, that I'm the only one standing between you and the beer, so it reinforces the first message. Even more importantly, Creative Europe not yet financing beers, but I will come back to this issue later. Okay, so thank you very much, actually. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank the Architects Council of Europe for organizing this event, and each of you for your active and engaged participation and dedication, reflecting the Architects Council's strong support to the new European Bauhaus movement. As you are well aware, the new European Bauhaus has a strong focus on Europe, but since the very beginning, it has also actively raised attention beyond Europe and addresses global challenges such as climate change, social inequality, and others, recognizing that these issues require collective and international efforts to find effective and sustainable solutions. Therefore, its international dimension comes as a natural component rooted in the spirit of collaboration and the promotion of a global dialogue on sustainable architecture and design. I was very pleased to see the prominence of the international dimension in your program and much appreciated the opportunity listening this morning to the exchange of views by the 4 presidents of the architects' organizations from Europe, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. It was a mind-opening experience, with all honesty. I never had such an opportunity, and it was fascinating. So thank you personally, and also the others who were online. I think it was an excellent demonstration of putting 2 important new European Bauhaus principles into practice, the promotion of global dialogue and the global collaboration and inclusivity. In concrete terms, the European Commission's international NEB network, we have 28 official partners outside Europe, while 5 out of 19 members of our high-level roundtable also come from outside the EU. As for the streams of work developed with international partnerships, let me now highlight just 2 examples. First, since the start of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, the European Commission and the NEB community has supported the Ukrainian authorities and citizens in their rebuilding and reconstruction efforts to achieve tangible, sustainable improvements on the ground. Second, looking a bit more ahead, according to our current plans, the EU may participate with its own pavilion at the World Expo in 2025 in Osaka, Japan. And if that project materializes, it is likely to be developed in line with the NEB principles, which may give some of you also opportunities. If we go ahead, of course, that will be during the new mandate of a new commission, so we will see how it will materialize. On a more general note, inspired by the Bauhaus movement of the 20th century, this new initiative represents a bold step forward in our collective quest to create environments that not only inspire admiration, but also foster a sense of belonging and harmony with the natural world. Architects bear a profound responsibility to shape the world around us in ways that reflect our shared values and aspirations. That message perhaps sounds a bit pompous, but being here for a couple of hours in the morning, I can feel that this is really the case among the participants and also from the online reactions. The new European Bauhaus offers a unique opportunity to harness the power of design as a force for positive change, driving innovation and social progress on a global scale. By embracing the principles of sustainability, circularity, and inclusivity, we can create spaces that not only delight the senses, but also nurture the soul and protect the planet for future generations. By fostering dialogue, sharing best practices, and building bridges across borders, international networks serve as a catalyst for collaboration and creativity, propelling us forward on our collective journey towards a more sustainable and equitable future. I think the reflections and insights shared today have shown that this conference contributed to harness the full potential of architecture and in general of all cultural sectors as a transformative force for good, transcending geographical boundaries and cultural divides. This is also fully in line with the overall objectives of the EU's Creative Europe programme. So in closing, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the speakers, panelists, and the excellent moderator for their contributions to today's discussions. It was certainly an inspiring event, reaffirming a clear commitment to advancing the architectural profession on a global scale. So thank you again, and I wish you continued success for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamas. Thank you to our online audience. Thank you, our online audience, for giving us such great comments and also questions to our speakers. And of course, thank you to everybody in the room. Passez une très belle soirée at the Beer Belgian World. There's no excuse not to go, unless, like me, you have to get a flight. Anyway, have a wonderful evening. Thank you.